So the cheapest earbuds you can get that are from Apple and have ANC are the Airpods 4 with ANC. And those are about 250 Canadian dollars or 180 USD. But the thing is, if you want AirPods that are from Apple, technically you don't need to get AirPods. You could get Beats, because Apple owns Beats, and they have for a while now. You basically get everything you would from AirPods, and they're cheaper. And they actually work well with Android, unlike AirPods. So if you're like me and you have a bit of a mixed ecosystem or go back and forth between iOS and Android, these might be perfect. So that's why I got these. I wanted good earbuds with decent ANC that would work well with Android and iOS, and had a decent price point. This accomplishes all of those things, but there are a few caveats, so don't click away just yet. Quickly going over what comes in the box, you get a pretty short C-to-C cable to charge your earbuds. These do not have wireless charging, so you have to charge wired. You get 4 sizes of ear tips. Usually you only get small, medium, large, 3 sizes, but Beats, actually gives you an extra small option with these as well, which is nice. And then the actual earbuds, which I've chosen to get in the transparent color. I think it looks good. I think it's unique. And I've had them for a few months now and they're not dirty or yellowing so far. So let's get into how they sound. I think they sound really good. Compared to all the other earbuds that I've owned, which you can see on my other reviews for, they're the best sounding ones for sure. I think the best way to put it is to actually just compare it with Apple's own AirPods lineup. I take them over AirPods 4 without or even with ANC, especially because those don't have ear tips and you kind of need a good seal for good ANC and transparency mode, but even just sound quality wise, these sound very clear and I'd describe the bass as punchy. But I won't go as far as to say that they're better than AirPods Pro 2. But then again, those are a lot more expensive. And at least these you can actually update without an Apple device, unlike AirPods. And stuff like Find My works with iOS and even Google's version. Now you'd expect them to have the best of both worlds since they work well with Android and iOS, but actually it seems Apple has handicapped some features here. The biggest flaw being that it doesn't have Apple's H1 or H2 chip, which means that you lose some Apple-specific features like spatial audio with head tracking. Earlier I mentioned that it works with Apple's Find My, of course, but it doesn't do the thing where it'll basically walk you to them, or the seamless switching between your iCloud devices, like between your MacBook and your iPhone. Okay, what if I'm an Android user and I don't care about those things? Well, it also doesn't have Bluetooth multipoint, which basically does the same thing where you can connect multiple devices and switch between them. So these don't have that on iOS or Android, which is pretty disappointing for me, honestly. Also, no equalizer on either OS, which is annoying for me as well, but luckily for me, I at least like how they sound stock. Now, there's another version of these called the Beats Fit Pro, and those are basically the same as this, but with Apple's H1 chip, which means that you gain back some of those Apple-specific features. And it has winged ear tips, which can be a pro or con depending on what you find to be more comfortable. But the price for those tend to be a bit more than these. Still less than AirPods with ANC, so you might want to consider those as well. I also want to bring up the controls on these, which I find to be pretty finicky at first, because they're not touch sensitive. They're actually like real buttons. So it kind of feels like you have to like shove it in your ear to press the buttons. Of course, I realize that you're supposed to hold the protruding stem as you press, but I still think that touch controls would have just been much better. There isn't much in the app or settings except the ability to actually change what holding down the button does. You can make them adjust volume or go back and forth between ANC and transparency, which is what I have it set to. So now let's talk about ANC and transparency on these. It sounds good, just good. Not bad or okay, but not amazing, just good. I take public transit, so that's where I use it most of the time, and ANC worked very well on the train. Just a little bit of the AC humming came through. Dialogue is not cancelled very well, but that's also expected. ANC tends to suffer with stuff like that because it's not consistent and predictable, like white noise is. So stuff like opening a bag of chips are also not cancelled well. The transparency mode on these though impressed me a lot. To me it basically just sounded like normal conversations. I was also kind of impressed with the battery life on these. I thought that turning on ANC or transparency would tank the battery harder than it did, but it did good. 7 hours with ANC and audio playing on a single charge, and 8 hours with transparency mode with audio playing. To compare that with the AirPods Pro 2, Apple themselves advertised 6 hours on a single charge. And I found that the case was able to charge the buds like 3 more times, so that's about 28 to 32 hours total. They also charge fairly quickly. The buds were back at 70% after like 20 minutes in the case, and 40 minutes to 100%. And when the case and earbuds were both dead, it took me about an hour and a half to fully charge everything back. The final thing I want to bring up before the conclusion was a quick mic test. Alright, so this is the mic test on the Beats Studio Buds Plus. I'm doing this in noise cancelling mode, if that even makes a difference, because whenever you're on a call on this, it goes into noise cancelling mode for some reason. But anyway, I'm just gonna close and open the furnace to have some background noise and talk over it. Now I'm gonna turn on my fan. Now I'm going to talk about 2 feet away from the fan. Uh, Wind is hitting right into these earbuds. Okay, now I'm going to see how it sounds. So that's it. That's my review of the Beats Studio Buds Plus. It's a pretty short video because it's a fairly simple conclusion. I think that they still hold up today as some of the best value ANC earbuds for both iOS and Android, but they still fall short in some areas, and since its release, some new earbuds have come out that you also might want to consider. Earlier in the video, I brought up Beats' own Beats Fit Pros. They have the Apple H1 chip, so if you want those Apple specific features, you might want to consider that. And Sony actually just announced, as I'm editing this video, the Sony WF-C710N, which is an improvement over the WF-C700N. You can always count on Sony to come up with the worst names possible. But anyways, they're priced basically the same as these. And by the way, I would only pay the discount price for these that I paid, which was about 180 Canadian dollars, or about 125 US dollars. And they're discounted very often, so you really shouldn't be paying full price for them. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you've tried these and you have differing opinions, feel free to comment below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for watching.